Hello and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. So today I am finally planning to make a start on The Whole Truth by Cara Hunter, which is one of my most anticipated books of the year, but I've been putting off reading it because I actually have an advanced copy of this book through NetGalley, so I need to read it and review it before the release date, and I've been trying to wait right up until the release date before I read it, so it's fresh in my mind. But I was actually going through my NetGalley shelf recently and I realised I have quite a few thrillers on my NetGalley shelf that are being released soon and that I need to read to review. And so I thought, why don't I do a themed reading vlog where I read them all and I tell you what they're about and whether I think they're worth adding to your radar. So if you're looking for some 2021 thriller releases, then hopefully by the end of this video I will be able to give you some recommendations. I mean, obviously if I hate any of these books then I will tell you, but they all sound really cool and so hopefully I do enjoy all of them. The first book on my list I've obviously already mentioned is The Whole Truth by Cara Hunter. So this is book 5 in the D.I. Adam Fawley series, which is a British crime thriller series that's set in Oxford. I have really enjoyed this series so far and so I'm really excited to read this next book. The second book on my list is Watch Her Fall by Erin Kelly, which is described as a cross between Black Swan, the film with Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis, and Killing Eve, so that sounds really fun. The final book I'm planning to read is Her Last Holiday by C.L. Taylor, and I have read a few C.L. Taylor books before and I've really enjoyed them. This is about a woman whose sister went missing a few years ago on a wellness retreat, and so this woman books onto another wellness retreat that's run by the same person because she wants to try and find out what happened to her sister. So yeah, those are all the books that I'm planning to read in this vlog. Like I said, I am really excited for all of these because they all sound really unique and I've been really craving thrillers recently. I feel like I haven't read many this year so far, and so I'm hoping that I enjoy all of these. I'm hoping that I might find a new favourite, but we'll see how it goes. Hey everyone, so I'm now about a third of the way through The Whole Truth by Cara Hunter, and I can't remember if I said before, but this is the 5th book in a series. However, you don't have to read the series in order unless you want to. I did, and I really enjoyed it, but the way that the series is written, you can read each book as a standalone if you want to. Basically, you're following the same team of detectives, but in each book they're investigating a different crime. So in this book, the team are investigating after a male student at a local college has accused their female professor of sexual assault. I don't want to say too much more on the plot because I feel like it can be really easy with thrillers to spoil things, but there's also a separate subplot that's going on that is kind of following on from something that was revealed in the last book. I don't really know how to explain this, but there's this guy that's been in prison for a really long time, and D.I. Adam Fawley was one of the officers that put him away, but this guy has always insisted that he was innocent, like throughout the whole time that he's been in prison, and he's now just been released, and it's kind of been hinted at that he might be wanting to get revenge. I don't really know what to think of this book so far because I feel like I am enjoying it, and I am reading it quite quickly. The pace is very quick. How many times can I say quick in one sentence? But I feel like it's not gripping me as much as the other books in this series did. And I don't know whether it's because with the first 4 books, I literally read them back to back. I think I read them all within the space of a week, and it's now been over a year since I last read them. And so I don't know whether it's just that I'm not as connected to the characters. I don't know, but like I said, I am liking this book so far, and I'm hoping that once I get now further into the book, I think I've already said I'm about a third of the way through, so maybe now it's going to start picking up. What I do really like is how it's showing that men can also be victims of sexual assault, and I like that you follow the team as they go through the procedure of like interviewing victims and processing evidence. I really like all of that. I like the police procedural stuff and learning about it. I also do really like that there's multimedia aspects throughout the book. So you have things like podcast transcripts and tweets and newspaper articles and things like that. I really like multimedia aspects within books because I feel like they help to bring it to life. So I've made a little more progress on The Whole Truth by Cara Hunter. I think I'm around 60% of the way through now, and I am really enjoying it. I think I'm enjoying it a lot more now than I was in the beginning because the pace has started to pick up a lot more. I do think that of the books that I've read in this series so far, this is the one where it would be much harder to get into if you haven't read any of the other books, because it's such a slow burn in the beginning and because it focuses a lot on the characters. If you haven't read any of the other books, then you probably wouldn't care as much about the characters. It's also told from multiple perspectives, which I do enjoy. I like multiple point of views because I feel like it helps the story feel more 3D rather than flat. However, if you've not read any of the other books and you don't know the characters, then I can imagine that it might be a little jarring and a little confusing. At the moment, this is feeling like it might be a 3 or a 4 stars, but I don't know because I feel like there's still quite a while to go. And I feel like there's still so many unanswered questions, and that is one thing that I am really loving, is the intrigue and the suspense and the fact that I don't know how all of these different threads are gonna tie together, but I do have faith that Cara Hunter is gonna pull it off in the end. So I finished reading The Whole Truth by Cara Hunter last night, and I'm gonna give this 4 stars. However, I think that if I'm being really picky, it's probably more like a 3.5 or a 7 out of 10. I did really enjoy it, but I don't think this is my favourite book in the series. I think that Cara Hunter's writing has definitely got better with each book. But the ending to this, I think the only way I can think to really describe it without spoilers is that when I got to the end of this book, my reaction was kind of like, okay, right. Whereas with the previous books, my reaction was more like, okay, wow. Does that make sense? I don't think it was a bad ending, and I do think that if you've read this series so far, then I would definitely recommend this. I think that it's a solid instalment in the series, and if you haven't read this series yet and you like crime thrillers, then again, I would recommend it. I think that if there are any more books in this series, then I will continue to read it. And so I don't know why I'm trying to defend the fact that I gave this book 4 stars. 4 stars is obviously a good rating. I enjoyed it and I thought that the story was well constructed. It just wasn't my personal favourite. I have now made a start on my next book for this vlog, which is Watch Her Fall by Erin Kelly. So this follows a woman called Ava, who is a dancer in her father's ballet company, and she has been working really hard for pretty much her whole life to be perfect. Like, her dad has put a lot of pressure on her and on all of the dancers in his company to be perfect, and she's now reached a point where she is pretty much at the top of her career because she's just been cast as the lead female role in Swan Lake, which is a role that a lot of dancers would kill for. I'm not actually that far in. I think I've read the first 10 chapters and I am really enjoying this so far. Not a lot has happened in terms of the plot, but there's this great feel of tension, and I like the writing style and how it's building this atmosphere within the ballet company, and so I'm really intrigued to see where this book is going to go. So I'm a little bit further into the book now. I think I'm around the 20% mark, and so far all of the book has taken place inside this theatre, like inside the ballet school, and I really like that closed setting. I feel like I'm getting a good sense of what life is like being part of this company. Obviously I don't know how accurate it is, I don't know anything about ballet, but I like that I feel like I'm being transported into this world. The main character is also very interesting because she's worked her whole life to get to the point in her career that she's now at. And she is starting to feel a little bit of paranoia, or I mean, maybe it's not paranoia, like maybe she is justified in thinking that someone is trying to trip her up and sabotage her, but I don't know. I'm excited to find out. So I'm now about 30% of the way through. Like, it's literally been a few hours. I wasn't going to do another update this soon, but the perspective has now changed, which I wasn't expecting. I don't think I knew that this was going to be multi-perspective, but it's not a bad thing. I like books that have multiple points of view. It just feels like the plot has gone off on a bit of a tangent, which feels weird because I don't know how this is going to be relevant and how everything is going to kind of tie together. One thing I did notice straight away, which I don't think I've mentioned yet, is that this book has a very descriptive and atmospheric writing style, whereas a lot of the thrillers that I read have a more basic or simple writing style. Not in a bad way or anything. I think what I'm trying to say is that I don't expect fancy writing when I read a thriller, like in comparison to, say, a literary novel. It's not the kind of thriller that I can, say, binge in a day or in one sitting, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm now about 60% of the way through Watcher 4, so I wanted to do a quick update because I get it now. So I'm understanding how this book is structured. Part 1, you follow Ava and the run up to Swan Lake, like the first performance of Swan Lake. And then part 2, it switches to another character's perspective. And then part 3, you get a completely different character's perspective. And now I'm just about to start part 4 and I can see that it's switching back to Ava. I don't know if there's going to be any more perspectives or what, but I am starting to see how it all fits together. At first, when the perspective, like the point of view, started changing, I was really confused because it seemed to be going off on a major tangent. But now I get it. The plot is so clever. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is that this book is set in London. However, some of the characters are from the Ukraine and Russia, and that does start to play a part within the story. Also, I lied before when I said that this isn't the kind of book that I can read in one sitting because it's so compelling and I'm really struggling to put it down. Hello, so I have finished reading Watcher 4 by Erin Kelly, and I kind of want to give this 5 stars. Like, I think if I was being really critical, the only thing I would say is that there were a few moments where I had to suspend disbelief just a little bit, but it didn't affect my overall enjoyment, and I loved that the book went in a completely different direction to what I was expecting. There were certain parts that I just did not see coming. I think if you like dark and twisty thrillers that have a lot of atmosphere, then I'd really recommend this, and I'd definitely like to check out some more of Erin Kelly's books. I have now made a start on my final book for this vlog, which is Her Last Holiday by C.L. Taylor. I'm not that far into it yet. I've literally read the first few chapters, but it's told from 3 different perspectives, so in the past and in the present. So in the present, you're following a woman called Fran, whose sister went missing on a wellness retreat around 2 years ago. Then you also have her sister Jenna's perspective in the past 2 years ago as she goes on this wellness retreat. Then back in the present day, you're also following a woman called Kate, who was one of the organisers of the wellness retreat, and her husband has just been released from prison. I believe he was in prison for something that happened on this wellness retreat 2 years ago. And now that he's been released, they're talking about setting up again and restarting. Like I said, I'm not that far into it, so I don't have any strong feelings either way. But I did just want to mention that there are trigger warnings for this book, and there are also trigger warnings for the other books that I've read so far in this vlog. I don't think I've actually mentioned that yet, so I will leave links in the description to all of the Goodreads pages so you can check the trigger warnings if you need to. So I'm now about a third of the way through Her Last Holiday, and I can't remember exactly what I've said so far on the plot of this book, but basically 2 years ago, this woman called Jenna went missing while on a wellness retreat. And at the time, the police said that they thought she'd taken her own life, but Jenna's mom is convinced that her daughter is still alive and that's not what happened. And so she asks her other daughter, so Jenna's older sister, Fran, to book onto another wellness retreat that's being organised by the same people, Kate and Tom, because she wants to find out what happened to Jenna. There was something else that happened on that wellness retreat 2 years ago, and we know that 2 people died during this wellness retreat, but we don't know the circumstances around it other than the fact that Tom ended up going to prison. The characters are a lot older than I was expecting. I think Fran is 51 and Jenna was in her late 30s when she went missing, so there's quite an age gap between them. I am enjoying this so far and I'm reading it quite quickly. I have read a few of C.L. Taylor's other books. I think I've actually read most of her adult thrillers, and I know that I like her writing style. I kind of know what to expect from her books, and this is no different. Don't have any theories yet on what actually happened to Jenna. I'm trying not to think too much about it because I want to be surprised. I don't want to spoil things for myself by constantly overanalyzing everything, but there are quite a lot of characters in this, and so I am very suspicious of everyone. So I'm about 60% of the way through now, and I wanted to do a quick update before I finish, but to be honest, I don't feel like I actually have much more that I can say about this book. Like, I'm still enjoying it, and I'm finding that I'm reading it quite quickly. It's the kind of thriller that I can imagine reading on the beach somewhere, like, you know, where sometimes you're on holiday and you want something that you can start and finish within a short space of time. that is what I feel like this is. What I will say is that it's very dramatic, and there's been quite a few occasions where I've really had to suspend disbelief, and there's also quite a lot of characters which I'm struggling with a little bit. I'm struggling to keep track of who everyone is. At the moment this is feeling like it might be a 3 or a 4 stars, but there's still quite a few unanswered questions, and so I am really interested to see how this book is going to end. Good morning. So I am here to wrap up the vlog because I finished reading Her Last Holiday last night, and I really enjoyed this. I think it's one of those thrillers that I had a good time reading it, but it's probably not going to stick with me. Most of the characters were pretty unlikable, but to be honest, when it comes to thrillers, I find that I'm much more of a plot-driven reader anyway. I didn't hate the ending, but I did also find that it was just a little bit anticlimactic, and this is definitely one of those books where you really have to suspend disbelief. I think if you like thrillers that are realistic, then this probably isn't going to be the book for you. However, if you like thrillers that have more of a gradual build up, then I would recommend this. I think that it was pretty solid. I did also like that the present day storyline is set in Snowdonia, which isn't far from where I went to uni in North Wales, so I felt like I could picture it quite clearly in my mind. But that does bring me to the end of the video, so thanks for watching if you've made it this far. I really enjoyed filming this vlog. It's taken me a little longer than I thought it would to film. I will leave the release dates for all of these books in the description, just in case you're interested in reading any of them. Like I think I said at the very beginning, these do all come out in April, but I think they come out on different dates. But yeah, leave me a comment down below if you're planning to read any of these. I feel like they are very different. Each of them I would recommend to a different type of thriller reader, or whatever you're planning to read. What am I saying? I think that depending on what you're looking for in a thriller, I would recommend each of these books to different people. Don't know whether that made sense, but yeah, if you enjoyed this video, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Bye.